Teaching children a moral, spiritual, and holistic approach to educational development. Written by El-Moslimany. Chapter 7. Towards a Tawhidic unified curriculum. IIIT Books in Brief series. Published by International Institute of Islamic Thought, IIIT. The systemic nature of reality, the seamless way the brain perceives it, the organizing process that aids memory, the relating process that creates new knowledge, the conceptual networking that yields fresh insights, the meshing of two seemingly unrelated ideas that underlies creativity, all rely on holistic, systemically integrated and related thought. And it's not being taught. The conventional methodology of imparting knowledge is based on assumptions that are incompatible with both the design of the brain and the unity of truth. God designed the human brain to be compatible with the unity of knowledge. New information is organized within the brain itself, first absorbing the whole and then making its own unique connections, forming patterns based on individual background, family, ability, and especially prior knowledge. When reductionism is applied to curriculum, the result is a fragmented, sequential, and standardized array of facts, obstructing the pattern making that is essential to learning. What is worse, we are most likely to use this with those who are considered underachievers, reducing information down into pieces so small that the pattern required for understanding has disappeared. In most schools, the curriculum is tied to texts that thinly cover an encyclopedic amount of material, preventing students from delving deeply into topics that are the most relevant to their own lives and interests, and preventing the teacher from focusing on authentic learning that will become a part of the student's long-term memory. As widespread as this standard curriculum is, commitment to integrating knowledge into a coherent whole nevertheless has a long history. As the school as a factory model took hold, others tried to promote a curricula based on the developmental interests of children and adolescents, instituting democracy and projects. As early as 1932, enough schools were experimenting with this model that the classic 8-year study could be carried out. Students from high school with an integrated curriculum were compared to those from separate study schools. 1,475 pairs of students were followed through high school and college. Each pair was composed of one student from innovative schools with an integrated student-centered curriculum and one from a standard teacher-directed separate study school. Students from the school with an integrated curriculum were found to be more intellectually curious, more motivated, more resourceful, and more concerned with world affairs. Beginning in the mid-40s, however, such schools became the targets of right-wing critics. During the McCarthy era, attacks escalated. Progressive education of any kind was labelled communist. Thematic education in the public schools never recovered. Among educational specialists, it would be difficult to find more than a very few who actually support the standard curriculum in use in almost all of our public schools today. Unfortunately, however, there appears to be little hope of any widespread move beyond the ineffective century-old division of subjects. In the name of educational reform, powerful business and industrial leaders shove educators aside and, with the help of their political allies, take over the schools. In recent years, this has resulted in a plethora of standardized testing that forces teachers to teach the test and discourages holistic learning. It is important to note that these stated problems are the problems of government-operated schools. Islamic schools, like other private schools, are not under the control of these specialist interest groups, yet most persist in taking the public schools as the standard. Our children deserve more. We can not only just do as well, but better than exclusive private schools, because our thematic curriculum will be centered on God, embracing the principles that He gave us in the Quran, principles that will benefit the future generation, serving to enrich and guide their lives as leaders in both the Muslim and the larger communities of which they will be members. Our thematic curricula will encourage critical thinking and the use of reflection, intuition, and other deeper ways of knowing. Certainly, the textbooks that have been prepared for schools that by law put materialism, not God, at the centre cannot be the foundation of a school that is truly Islamic. It simply is not reasonable for a Muslim teacher in an Islamic school to teach from a prescribed syllabus that deliberately and totally eliminates Al-Khaliq, the Creator. Surely this not only dishonours God, but is also an injustice to the children whom we are responsible. Using a Tawhidic curriculum, students will not be presented with a series of facts to be sequentially fed, memorized, and cycled back to the teacher without thought or reflection. This means that any typical textbooks, including those that might be designed specifically for use in Muslim schools, are ineffective, except perhaps as a reference. In a typical textbook-oriented course, material will be taught as several discrete topics, each of which must be completed over a relatively short period. Often the time becomes even more truncated when the end of the year approaches and the book has not been finished. Moreover, the practice of teaching from a textbook is based on the patently false assumptions that each child in the classroom has the same prior knowledge, interests, and skills as every other child of the same age, and therefore will, or should, learn in unison with one another. Books, real books, are essential, of course, but not everyone will read or learn from the same book, nor will they read all the material available to them. Instead of rushing through a multitude of prearranged facts, each student will be able to take the time to build upon her prior knowledge, follow her own interests, and seek answers to her own questions, and truly come to understand that which is most relevant to her. What is needed is a plethora of interesting books of all types and at various levels. Thematic or multidisciplinary teaching has been discussed by numerous educators. Obviously, they differ in details, but there is general agreement of several important factors. The teacher must have a deep underlying goal for the themes presented. Proponents have used different terms for this underlying goal: broad conceptual understanding, essential question, organizing center, the big picture, overarching goals, powerful ideas, conceptual structure, enduring understandings. I recommend that these overarching goals be specific Islamic principles. It is preferable that the students are led to discover for themselves and internalize the relationships between the subject matter and these broad Islamic principles, but it is the role of the teacher to guide them to this understanding. J. McTighe and Grant Wiggins have outlined their requirements for what they call essential questions. They should, number 1, be open-minded, typically without a single final correct answer. Number 2, be thought-provoking and intellectually engaging. Number 3, point towards important ideas that are transferable. Number 4, raise other questions that will encourage further inquiry. Number 5, require support and justification, not simply an answer. Number 6, result in understanding that can and will be revisited over time. Almost all who have promoted an integrated curriculum agree on the importance of the role of the students in planning. Students and teachers should work together to identify topics, gather information, pose questions, and design activities, projects, and field trips. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the direct recipient of the Word of God, the teacher par excellence, and yet he was ordered by the Quran to consult with those to whom he was superior in every way, and take counsel with them in all matters of public concern. Quran chapter 3 verse 159. Abu Huraira reported, "Never have I seen anyone more prone to seeking counsel than was the Messenger of God. An atmosphere of freedom and truthfulness within the environment promotes the desire to develop the alacrity, to exchange opinions and advice freely and truthfully. Not every student will be expected to participate in every activity that is developed. One of the most important advantages of an integrated curriculum is that it allows for differentiated instruction. There must always be a level of choice as individuals or groups of children work according to their unique ways of learning, their specific needs, and to more deeply pursue their own interests and questions. Because networks of thought processes become interconnected as new learning relates to pre-existing knowledge, learning must be relevant, not mere interests or fads, but around substantive issues. Learning must be subject to modest spending on the social and political environment in which we find ourselves, or on some event that occurs unexpectedly in the classroom or school. The personal significance of attempting to understand a situation that is impacting the lives of our students can not only offer immediate insight, but also provide a foundation that will serve them in the future. What better example can we have than how our Prophet taught? Almost every lesson was in response to a situation that was actually occurring. An important aspect of understanding the Quran was to relate the words of God to the events that were unfolding within the environment. Facts and skills are tools. They should be taught neither in isolation nor for their own sake. The teacher must carefully embed the skills, theme, and subject matter into the overarching goals so that there is a synergism among them. Children should be given the precious gift of time to think, to explore, and enjoy. For lasting and understanding, students need the opportunity to reflect, to discuss, to ponder, to allow time for the new skills and subject matter to be related to prior knowledge. Facts hastily learned and tossed back without input of thought or creativity will seldom be remembered for long. We were aware from what we know of the brain that the more senses involved in the process of learning, the more likely it is that the knowledge will become part of our permanent memory. Projects, research, role plays, independent study, field trips, and guest visitors all present a variety of learning experiences. The teacher does not need to be an expert, nor even particularly knowledgeable. Teaching is especially fulfilling when you learn right along with the students. Expertise other than that of the teacher can be in the form of YouTube, videos, specialised colleagues, books, guest speakers, field trips, and students themselves as they pursue the passion that develop. We are reminded in the Quran over and over again that we are expected not only to believe, but also to confirm our beliefs with good works. Believing and obtaining knowledge is not enough. Belief and knowledge must lead naturally to action. Thus, students should feel encouraged to participate in public gatherings, visit public officials, write letters, make phone calls, and circulate petitions. Community service has become common in schools, and it requires special attention in our schools. Almost any of the Islamic concepts we choose as our overarching goals will lead naturally to community participation. It is up to us to assume the task of designing curricula that will prepare the next generation of Muslims, curricula that are truly Tawhidic. Every overarching goal that we choose should be consciously linked to Tawhid, as well as the purpose of our lives to worship God and do His will on earth. It is these Islamic principles essential to living as Muslims that should serve as the foundation, with the content of the theme itself built around these concepts. The concept of justice can be addressed in many contexts, as can the unity of humanity, establishing peace, forgiveness, seeking knowledge, cooperation, honesty, relationships, the detrimental effects of tribalism and nationalism, dealing with adversity and migrating for the sake of God. The end goal is to instill God-centered habits of mind that will enable our students to look critically at every problem, idea, event, and controversy that they will experience in relationship to His guidance for how to live their lives on earth.